You mentioned at the top that I wrote this structured logging library called Zap. There's a bunch of libraries like it now. There's like Zerolog, and they're proposing to introduce something like this to the standard lib. I think this whole thing is just so fundamentally misguided. And I've felt that since starting to write Zap. I just think it's all a bad idea.
So you think structured logging itself is a bad idea?
The way it's done here, yeah.
We introduced you by saying that if you've used Zap, you've probably used your code, and now you're telling us that that was a bad idea.
You know, for a bunch of reasons, I was at Uber at the time. I was writing like a service mesh thing for a stubby-like protocol. It had like tight performance requirements. We were feeling really good. We'd like written this service mesh proxy thing. We'd met all the perf requirements. And Johnny, you're going to hate this, but at the end, we came back and like, now we shall add the observability. And you add a couple of log statements and a couple of like metric increments, and all of a sudden I'm staring at 1,000 heap allocations. The perf budget went out the window. And you're like, well, we could just ship it without the logs or the metrics, but that's not good. And so to fit with the log infrastructure of the company, we had to emit JSON. And there was like really no facility for running a regex over a string in the log ingestion and like dashboarding stuff. And so I kind of invented this ultimately like very fussy API for producing logs just to avoid heap allocations, more or less, and to avoid like reserializing data that we'd already serialized once. And it is so fussy. I mean, it's just unreal.
And you thought you'd unleash it. You'd unleash it on the rest of the community.
No, so actually internally at Uber, what we did is we just like put this thing behind a facade that looks like the old logging library. And it was like 30% faster. And you're like, well, if everything just got 30% faster for no code changes, this is a huge one, right? There's like zillions of cores just, you know, parsing map string any. Mm-hmm. If we can get rid of that, that's great. But I didn't expect anyone, apart from like the lowest level infra code, to actually be using this API. And what I didn't count on is, well, we're a bunch of backend engineers. And everybody wants to flex. You want to be like, oh, this is the fastest service at the company. Like, look at how fast this API is. I have 2 heap allocations in this whole code path. Everybody was using this API. There's this kind of like, this is crazy. We should be logging strings with thump.printf. And if you want to like wrap them in JSON, like all the way at some boundary, or like puts the process ID and the host name or whatever in there, that's fine. But like, as a programmer, I shouldn't be staring at this super fussy JSON production API. If I can't convince you of that, I want to at least convince you that JSON is just the worst format.